What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Like to Snow back today with another video. Today I'm covering everyone's favorite beast of the Leaf Village, Might Guy. I don't usually, if ever, talk about Guy in immersive dot video, so today I thought I'd give him some limelight, and to do so I decided to pit him up against the individual members of the Akatsuki. Now, to preface this topic with a couple of rules, so to speak, one would be that we're going to restrict the full 8 gates from Guy, as in the Gate of Death specifically, because I'm pretty sure a majority, if not all of the Akatsuki members would get one-shotted by 8th Gate Guy. I mean, they may as well form a line and have him perform the Night Guide to them all at once. The only possible exception being Obito, but even that's a bit arguable. So for this video, to make it a little bit more interesting, we're going to restrict Guy to the 7th gate only and see how he does against each individual member of the organization. If I bring up the 8th gate, it'll only be to say as if it's a last resort in the respective fight. Another thing to note before we start is that we're using the Might Guy from the War Arc, but again, before using the 8th gate. If we do this in canon, then Guy will have knowledge about pretty much every single member of the Akatsuki. However, in canon, some members of the Akatsuki won't have knowledge of Guy, at least not past anything that Itachi or Kisame may have told them. So with that all the way, let's go ahead and get started. So first up, we have Hidan. Now, being that Guy has knowledge of Hidan and his abilities, this is a pretty easy win for Guy. Personally, I don't believe he needs any of the gates for this, but if we really highball Hidan, then maybe the 3rd or 4th gate gets the job done. I don't mean to dismiss Hidan, but he's definitely a tough fighter, but when you have prior knowledge of how his ritual works, he's not very threatening, especially for someone as fast as Guy. So for this one, I hate to be so quick about it, but I'd say Guy takes it 9 to 10 out of 10 times. If Hidan's lucky enough to scratch Guy, then yeah, maybe he can kill him, but it's very lucky. Next up, we have Konan. This one's actually interesting for me at first because Konan does have a counter to Guy with her being able to fly. And with her pretty much being able to turn herself into paper, she's almost immune to physical damage. Jiraiya was able to hit her, but that was an oil-based attack, which affected her paper skin, or whatever you call it. However, with like with Obito, his ability to phase, Konan has to be quick enough to be able to turn her body into paper to avoid attacks. And on speed alone, she's completely outclassed by Guy. But again, she can fly, so speed may or may not play a factor. Depending on how the fight starts out, Konan may not immediately take flight. And if that's the case, Guy might just be able to blitz her in base. Konan was able to keep up with Obito, which is kind of impressive, even though it was just a little bit. So she has some speed, but not close compared to Guy. And even if he needs any of the gates in order to be fast enough to blitz her before she takes flight, we see it takes no time for Guy to enter the form of the gate, so he might be able to end the fight really quickly. If she does take flight, she has the advantage of possibly running the clock out till Guy exhausts himself, but Guy does have options for long-range attacks such as Hirodora or just weaponizing the air in general. I personally don't think Konan will be able to outright dodge the Hirodora with its massive island level size, so it depends on if she's able to turn her body into paper quick enough to not take damage. But if Jiraiya can land a fireball attack on her quick enough, then I think 6th to 7th gate Guy should be able to do so also. I mean, to be fair, she did tank it by coating herself in paper, but I mean, you get the idea. For this one, I'd give it to Guy just because I think he's too fast for Konan, and he has options to potentially deal with her ability to fly. But I give it to Konan also if she's able to utilize her paper defense and run the clock out. So with this one, I'd say Guy wins this about 7 to 8 out of 10 times. Next up, we have the clay monster himself, Deidera. So like with Konan, Deidera also counters Guy with his ability to fly. His C2 dragon causes a problem for Guy to be able to land a clean blow, but it's all depending on if he's able to get the dragon summoned in time before Guy can blitz him. We see that it takes a few seconds for Deidera to mold the clay and summon it, so with Guy having knowledge of how Deidera uses his clay, he might take advantage of the time and try to attack him before he's able to get the dragon on the field. Depending on how you compare Guy's speed in base to Heavy Sasuke, to which I'd say they're comparable or relative, Deidera might be fast enough to avoid an attack from him since he was able to avoid a blitz from Sasuke, but it also depends on how Deidera decides to start the fight. Because if he doesn't go for the dragon right away, Guy's going into the gates 5 or above and wrecking Deidera. If Deidera does summon the dragon, assuming he's quick enough to do so, then Guy's going to have a fight on his hands. He's going to have to go into the 7th gate and use Hirodora, and just like with Konan, I don't know if Deidera will be quick enough to outright dodge it with how big of an attack it is. Without knowledge of it and its size, I'd probably give it to Guy more often than not, but with Deidera's reaction time, I will say it's possible that he can probably avoid it. If he is, then Guy's kind of done, because at that point, Deidera just launches either C3 or uses C4 and ends the fight. I'd say Guy's quick enough to avoid C2 Dragon Missiles, but he can't outrun C3 or C4, at least not in my opinion. Guy's only resort, at that point, would be to use the 8th gate, assuming he hasn't been killed by C3 or C4, which, yes, it would end the fight, but Guy would also die, so it's kind of a draw. With this one, I'd say it's a 6 out of 10 in Guy's favor. I know some of y'all might be thinking I'm giving Deidera like too much credit. If he starts the fight with the C2 Dragon, then I think he has more of an advantage. I'm aware that Guy has a chance to blitz him before he can get the dragon off, but I don't want to sleep on Deidera's reaction time, which again also translates to how I feel about him being able to avoid the Hero Door. But Sasuke was able to hit Deidera with like some rigged shuriken when Deidera was caught off guard, so it's definitely possible. If Deidera is able to like avoid it, then Guy dies to either C3 or C4. But as I said, I still give this one to Guy 6 out of 10. Next up is Sasori. Now this one's tough because Sasori has so much versatility that it's ridiculous. Guy obviously gets past the Haruko shell, but after that, it's kind of up in the air. With Guy having knowledge of Sasori and his poison, I would think he'd be safe from getting hit by it, like with the poison blade or needle. I don't think the 100 puppets would be too much of an issue since Guy seems pretty good at handling large number of enemies like in the war arc, albeit it was with other allies, but still, like, you get the point. With knowing who he's up against, I'd say that Guy would probably go straight into the 6th or 7th gate, in which case I can't see Sasori being fast enough to avoid a blitz outright from Guy. But with the 3rd Kazekage's Iron Sand, his defense might be solid enough to tank a blitz from him. And with the sand being able to change its form around the battlefield and possibly limiting Guy's mobility, and with the poison being so versatile in and of itself, including releasing it as a cloud around Sasori himself as a possible extra layer of defense, I would think it's tough for Guy to close a distance without getting himself killed. Plus, Sasori having the scrolls to use the nature transformation is kind of overkill. In order for Guy to win, he has to get past all of the Haruko shell, the 100 puppets, the 3rd Kazekage with the Iron Sand, then deal with Sasori himself with his poison and long-range nature-style attacks, all within the time that Guy can remain safely in the 6th or 7th gate. Because, as we all know, the gates take a toll on you after a while, especially when you're in the 7th gate, as remarked by Lee in the war arc. Again, this is probably one of the tougher ones for me personally, but in the end, I'd probably give it to Sasori 6, maybe 7 out of 10. I don't really want to downplay Guy, especially with him having knowledge of Sasori, but Sasori is no joke. Fighting this guy is like fighting the final boss of a Final Fantasy game because he has so many forms to deal with before you actually get to Sasori himself. Meanwhile, Guy is expending all of his energy and taking the effects as the 7th gate, trying to deal damage and avoid the poison altogether. However, for those of you who think I'm sleeping on Guy here, I would say that a full power Hirudora could one-shot Sasori so bad that he can't even rebuild himself, or that it just destroys that little heart thing that he's got in his chest. Next, we have Kakuzu, and like with Sasori, Kakuzu is very versatile. I don't know if I go so far as to say he has more versatility than Sasori, but with what he has at his disposal, I think he's pretty crazy. Now, right off the bat, Kakuzu is not as fast as Guy with the gates, which with Guy knowing who he's fighting, more than likely would start out with a 6th or 7th gate. But what Kakuzu has going for him are his long-range attacks and every nature transformation, and his durability, which seems to tank almost anything. With his Diamond Morph Jutsu, Kakuzu might be able to just tank Hirudora. Now, I know that's a big Kakuzu wing. But after all, Kakuzu was able to tank a point-blank fireball from Matatabi. I don't know if there's an upper limit to what Kakuzu's Diamond Morph can handle, and it seems the only way to get rid of it is to destroy the Earth-style heart, like specifically, and since Guy will have knowledge of this, he might just go ahead and try to do it like anyway. Which I feel is possible, even with all the hearts trying to bum rush him. I can't see them being able to land a clean hit on 7th gate Guy, especially with mid Shippuden Kakashi being able to do a pretty good job avoiding their attacks on his own. The problem though is that with Kakuzu using the Diamond Morph in his Tide Jutsu, there's a chance he could match, if not outright beat, Guy's strength in the gates. Again, I know that's a massive Kakuzu wing, but I don't know, like the fact that he was able to survive a point-blank fireball from Matatabi up front is just crazy. Luckily, though, like I said earlier, Guy is way faster than Kakuzu, so there's a good chance Guy can just run circles around him. And with that, he can create an opening to punch a hole through the Earth-style heart outright, assuming Kakuzu keeps it in his body like he normally does. Once that's out of the way, it's game over, because I don't think Kakuzu is surviving a Hirudora without the Diamond Morph. If anything, he'd be barely alive like he was after getting hit with the Rasen Shuriken. So with this one, I'd give it to Guy about 7 to 8 out of 10 times. I think Kakuzu still does pretty well, but with Guy being so much more faster and having the strength to just outright destroy the Earth-style heart, the odds for Kakuzu start to go down. Besides, as much as the hearts are flying around shooting off nature abilities, I mean, they are still susceptible to being taken off guard. Up next, we have Kisame. Now, we kind of already saw this. However, Kisame was slightly nerfed due to him not having Samehada. Now, most people seem to think that him not having Samehada wouldn't make much of a difference, but it actually might. For one thing, Samehada will be able to possibly warn Kisame ahead of time that guys' attacks don't use chakra, so Kisame wouldn't make the mistake of trying to absorb the Hirodora like he did in the main series. Also, Samehada does provide Kisame with some serious healing capabilities, plus his transformation when he's in the water, when he's fused with Samehada. Now, Guy does have the ability to repel the water with his green chakra aura, or whatever you want to call it, but what the people have debated on whether or not he can actually repel the water within the water dome, with the morning aura of sweat, whatever you want to call that too. If he decides to do so, Guy will be in danger. In the manga panel, the water dome is comparable to the size of a mountain by height, and if he evaporates the water, he will plummet to his death. It's better for him to evaporate the water contained within the water dome from the bottom of the dome itself. I'm not sure how Guy's speed will be affected within the water, if at all. That said, I haven't seen Kisame fuse with Samehada in action too much to say who would necessarily have the advantage within the water or not. If Kisame isn't able to get the water dome summoned before Guy blitzes him, then I think Guy takes it. If Kisame is able to fuse with Samehada, and then he gives Guy more trouble, but it's still possible for Guy to overwhelm Kisame. Overall, I'd say this one still goes to Guy, but with the odds for Kisame being better. So I'd give this one about a 6 to 7 in Guy's favor. Now we move on to Itachi. Now, I want to give the most fairness to both these fighters because Guy would know everything he needs to know about Itachi, aside from Izanami and Izanagi if he decides to use it. Then Itachi would also have like the same kind of knowledge on Guy, but I don't feel right about using the Itachi that we saw fight Sasuke in Mid-Shippuden. So I feel like the best reference we can use to gauge a live Itachi in terms of chakra reserves and duration of his Sharingan use is 5 Kage Summit Sasuke, since he was fighting up for a good bit and using his MS relentlessly before tiring out and nearly going blind. Obviously, in terms of performance, Itachi would do way better, but as far as physical condition, 5 Kage Summit Sasuke is at least a reasonable reference to use. So with that said, this is a fun fight for me because I kind of picture Itachi being super cautious when fighting Guy, as he straight up told Kisame, like, yeah, don't take this guy lightly. Now, on the ground with no Susanoo, I don't think Itachi would last too long. Knowing who he's going up against, Guy would immediately go for the 6th or 7th gate, and although Itachi can more than likely keep up with Guy in terms of combat speed, as he was able to keep up with KCM1 Naruto, I can't say with full certainty that he'd be able to handle Guy's raw strength in the gates. Maybe you can make a case for the 6th gate, but not the 7th gate. 6th or 7th gate Guy starts reaching into the Raikage and Tsunade's level of strength, and we saw Sasuke get knocked in the next week by the Raikage even when he was in his Susanoo. Even if you want to say alive, healthy Itachi's durability is better than this Sasuke, which I could definitely agree with, I can't see him being that much more durable than this Sasuke. Now, with Itachi possibly knowing that Guy has come up with a counter to Genjutsu and by extension Tsukuyomi, Itachi's first move when seeing Guy open the gates might be to just throw up a Susanoo. Now, obviously Guy isn't getting past the Yata, and so it won't be easy for him to get through Itachi's defenses. However, conversely, I don't believe Itachi will necessarily be able to hit Guy with a Totsuka blade. I know Itachi's been shown to be pretty fast with it, but Guy is also fast. I mean, he saw Kisame move the top part of his thumb and immediately blitzed him. Also, when it comes to mobility, I can't see the Susanoo being able to be move more efficiently than Guy in the 6th or 7th gate. As we see in the fight between Sasuke and Itachi, when it moves, it's kind of clunky, and it's not as mobile as someone as fast as Guy. And so with that, Guy could possibly run circles around the Susanoo and avoid the Yatamir and hit it with the full power Hirodora. And even if you want to highball the defense of Itachi Susanoo, excluding the Yatamir, and say it's on the same level as Madara, it took a good bit of damage from Guy's Hirodora in the War Art. So I feel like eventually, through attrition, Guy might be able to weaken the Susanoo. Amaterasu, I don't think will be effective, especially if we put 6th or 7th gate Guy's speed relative to the Raikage, and even more so when Guy knowing Itachi has Amaterasu, it'll be kind of tough for him to land it. Now, what I can say for Itachi is his superior intellect. Now, Guy's not dumb, at all. But this is Itachi. Itachi is one of the smartest tacticians in the show, and with him also knowing who he's fighting, it's totally within the realm of possibility that Itachi can make a plan to catch Guy off guard, even with his incredible speed. He also does have Izanagi as a worst case scenario, and if that happens, then in his state of confusion, he might catch Guy off guard and hit him with the Totsuka blade or Amaterasu. However, they both have a timer, so to speak. Because as I said earlier, Guy can only use the 7th gate for so long before he really starts to feel the effects of it. And likewise, the more Itachi relies on his Susanoo and the rest of his MS abilities, the quicker he tires out and starts to go blind. So in all honesty, it might come down to who can run the clock out longer. This one's tough. I feel like I'm overhyping Guy, but his speed is no joke, and neither is his attack power. But I feel like I have to give this one to Itachi with a lucky 6 out of 10, maybe a 5.5. And in all honesty, it's only solely due to Itachi's tactical skills, because I feel like as smart as he is and the weapons and the jutsu he has at his disposal, I feel like it is possible, more than likely, that he'd be able to catch Guy in a Genjutsu without having to use the Sharingan and then just end the fight with either Amaterasu or Totsuka Blade. Up next, we have Pain. This one's been debated almost as much as Guy versus Itachi, and now I'm not necessarily using the Pain that fought Naruto in the Leaf Village because that Pain was weakened at the beginning. So I'm going to use a full power Pain as hypothetical as I can. So like with the other fights, Guy will have intel on Pain just as Naruto did. So with that in mind, he'd probably know which Pains to take out first, which in my opinion would be the Naraka path and then the animal path. The animal path first, because if he's able to get any of the animals on the field, Guy is screwed. With all 6 paths and any of the summons, Guy's just going to get overwhelmed. If he's able to take out the animal path right away, then the fight is still tough, but it becomes a lot easier. As soon as the animal path is done, he could blitz the Naraka path, and I feel like the rest should be somewhat easy. Now, don't get me wrong, the paths are indeed competent, but aside from the Diva path and to some extent the Asura path, they aren't super durable or good at hand-to-hand, at least not when compared to, a 7th Gate Guy who was throwing hands with V2, Jinchuriki, and the Warwick and was doing pretty good at it. But then the Diva path could universal pull Guy as soon as he attempts to blitz any of the other paths to keep them out of danger. Whether or not he'd be able to, be quick enough to do so before he takes him out is arguable, but Guy could just launch a full power Hero Dora in that direction, and I assume it'll cover about the same amount of ground as the Rasen Shuriken, if not more. Now, if the Preta path attempts to absorb it, thinking it's chakra, then it'll be even worse for the Paths of Pain. Almighty Push and Planetary Devastation is definitely something that could end the fight. However, I feel as though that would be the panic button in case Guy got them down to the Diva path, because using either one of those puts the other paths at risk of being put out of commission, though Pain might just attempt it anyway since they're just corpses. Now, I'm not trying to sleep on the other paths of Pain because they're definitely threatening, but the human path I don't think is going to be able to touch Guy with how fast he is, unless again they work together to trap Guy into a position where he can get his soul sucked out. The Asura path could force Guy at a distance, but shooting missiles and laser beams and whatnot, and if he gets too close, he could maybe defend the other paths of Pain. But again, I don't think the missiles are necessarily hitting Guy unless the Diva path universal pulls him towards a missile, like an oncoming missile. Again, teamwork would probably be the one that gets the win, honestly. Especially again if he hasn't taken out the animal path yet. Unfortunately, I have to give a sort of cop-out 2-part answer for this one. If Guy can take out the animal path before he summons any of the animals, then I think Guy wins 6 out of 10. If Pain gets any of the summons on the field, then Guy loses at least 7 out of 10. Again, with all 6 paths of Pain plus the animal summons would just be overkill and they would just overwhelm him, especially considering which of the summons they actually put on the field. And last up, we have Obito. Now, this is the Obito with the orange mask. We kind of already saw this in the war arc. Granted, it was an Obito with the Renegon, but Obito was fighting Guy plus 3 other pretty fast shinobi and was doing just fine against them. Plus, Obito does remark that it's specifically the Sharingan, not the Renegon, that lets him read his moves so well. But to be fair, that was base Guy, so maybe 7th Gate Guy could land a clean hit on Obito quick enough. But seeing how Obito was able to phase through the Raikage from point blank range, I'd say he'd probably do the same for Guy. Sadly, even with Guy's speed, Kamui remains just as bit as broken as it always will be. Plus, with Izanagi, Obito has a chance to catch Guy off guard with confusion if Guy actually does land a decisive blow. But Obito still has pretty good healing abilities due to him having Hashirama Cell, so I don't know. But in conclusion, I'd say Obito takes this one about 9 out of 10, and I think I'm kind of highballing Guy with that one. So there y'all have it, Guy versus the Akatsuki. Like I said, I haven't really done a Guy versus battle video in a long time, and I thought this would be the perfect match to do it. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Let me know if I didn't give enough credit to each respective fighter, Guy included. While I was making this video, I was actually starting to think of an idea of this maybe being a 3-part episode series, so to speak, with episode 2 being War Kakashi versus the Akatsuki. So let me know in the comments what y'all think, and the 3rd episode, if y'all want me to do this, will be hinted on the 2nd episode. So that won't be next week's video, but it will be in the works. So hope y'all look forward to that. Let me know in the comments what y'all think of the video. Make sure you like the video, subscribe if you haven't already. And until my next one, like the snow, out.